Hi everyone, let's discuss the poultry red mite, how to recognise, treat and prevent it in the coop. Red mites are considered one of the top welfare concerns with poultry worldwide, and increasingly so because they thrive in the heat. So every year, as our climate warms, the problem gets worse and more difficult to manage. I would also say that managing red mites is certainly one of the most frustrating problems for backyard poultry owners, and I'm guessing that's why you're here. So, a quick bit of background. Red mites are tiny critters that live in the coop of your chooks. They are nocturnal and will only jump onto your chooks to bite and drink their blood at night time. Then they return to their hiding place in the coop, and they are very, very good at hiding, at finding deep, well-protected hiding spots. This is the first thing you need to understand to manage them appropriately. They will crawl deep into the cracks of wood, into the fibres of any material, insulation, rope perches, which is why they are so good at surviving. But if you're looking for them, get out there, wipe your finger under the perch, have a look in the corners of the coop. In bulk, they sort of look grey, but if you smush them together, you'll see the red colour after a blood feed. You generally will not see them on the chicken during the day in most circumstances. They cause a huge amount of physical and psychological stress to the chickens. Affected chickens will lay less. They lay abnormal, faulty eggs. You can often hear them stressing in the coop at night if they're locked in, or they may choose to roost outside of the coop. They can lose a lot of blood, becoming severely anemic, and die. These mites also spread infections like salmonella and cause skin irritation and allergic reactions, even in humans as well. Cortisol and adrenaline will be roaring in your hens, telling us they are incredibly stressed by being bitten by up to 500,000 mites per night in a heavy infestation. And let me tell you, an infestation turns heavy very quickly, because when temperatures rise in summer, they can complete their life cycle from egg to adult in just a week. They breed immensely fast. There is research suggesting that over 80% of backyard flocks carry red mites, and they will come back year after year. They will even survive in the grass outside your coop. So even if you don't think you've got them, you probably do. So let's break down how to manage these little critters. Full disclaimer, if you have a rough wooden coop, many people I've dealt with actually end up burning their coop and starting fresh. The key here is that control is predominantly environmental, but we do also have some options to control them on the hens themselves, especially if you're lucky enough to have a poultry vet near you. The whole aim of the game with the environment where they actually live is to work with a clean slate. If you're out there treating the coop with pesticides, but there are cracks between the wood and splinters, they can hide from your pesticides and you will not touch the sides. So put a weekend aside, get the hens somewhere safe for a couple of nights, and follow these steps. Firstly, you need to get in there and clean the whole thing out really well. Remove any material, like material perches, and sweep very well so you're starting with clean surfaces. You're then going to get in there and treat all the surfaces with a pesticide. There are a few options out there labelled for poultry use that will disinfect the surface, as well as killing mites on contact. So treat all your surfaces and don't forget your perches as well. Now for some people this is as far as they need to go, and for many people that's why they can't get on top of the situation, because these pesticides must make contact with the mites in order to kill them. If they're hiding in the wood, you're not scraping the surface. So if you've got rough wooden surfaces or an older coop, what you'll need to do is then go through and fill all the corners and cracks with silicone. Then, if you have particularly rough wood, you may even need to paint those surfaces to get a smooth finish. Now, please make sure this is not an old lead-based paint. Peeling lead-based paint is a cause of lead toxicity in chooks, so only use acrylic. Now, in the mind of a hen, of course, when there's something worth picking, she's going to pick it. So if you go this route and paint the surfaces, there will be an element of maintenance involved, okay? We can't have paint flaking away in there. And of course, you don't want them in there breathing in those fumes. This is why they'll need somewhere else to stay for a few nights while you get that coop well ventilated and treated. Now, once you have all smooth surfaces and no hiding spots for the mites, you can sprinkle some diatomaceous earth, which does have an effect on external parasites. It's a fine white powder that scratches the exoskeleton of the mite and dries out the mite on contact, dries it out to death. We don't want the chooks breathing in this dust in great quantities. It can be abrasive to the respiratory tract. So again, we're just going to keep them out while we let the dust settle, so to speak. Then we're going to lay our nice fresh bedding and treat the hens at the same time, which we'll come to in just a moment. I'm sorry to say that during summer you'll need to get into the coop every 2 weeks at least to clean it out, clean with our disinfecting mite killing solution, and lay fresh bedding. We need to break the life cycle of those mites, and despite trying our hardest, there will likely be some survivors somewhere, because they will even lay in wait under the coop and in the grass outside the front door, for example. So during summer it is just a matter of management, and we would expect to see them again the following summer. Now we will want to get a treatment on our hens as well, so that any little mite that does try its luck with a bite will go off and die. In the past, and in many areas without a better solution, frontline sprays are sometimes used. The ivermectin spot-on solution is still commonly used in chooks. This is off-label, so how well it works has not been guaranteed. However, many vet clinics will dispense this. The ivermectin does need to be in a propylene glycol solution. It needs to be repeated in 7 days to try and help break that life cycle of the mites. Now, because of people's reliance on this drug over the years, the mite has developed some resistance against the drug, so it doesn't work very well these days in my experience. A much better option, if you have it available, is called the drug Fluralana. This is the only product licensed and labelled for red mites in poultry. It has a fantastic success rate and no withhold period on the eggs, so you can continue to eat them. Again, it does have to be repeated in 7 days' time. It is generally dosed through the water, but can be given by beak. If we don't give that second dose, the mites will begin to develop resistance to outsmart the drug over time. So do give that second dose, and do use it along with environmental control. But otherwise, this is the best way you can go. The big downside with this drug is that it's currently generally sold in large quantities, so you will have to hunt around to find if there's somewhere that you can source it. So let's jump over to our video on how to dose medication accurately through the water supply and go from there.